You saved her? Why?
I humbly ask to join your pride.
No! You were banished with the other outsiders.
I have left the outsiders.
Have you ever wondered why Kovu was so easy to change sides in The Lion King 2? What if everything you knew about his journey was only half the truth? His transformation from Scar's heir to Simba's ally seemed quick, but there's a hidden story Disney never fully revealed. We've spent years studying Kovu's character and discovered the shocking truth about his life in the Outland, the brutal training sessions, the psychological manipulation by Zira, and the moments where Kovu's true nature fought against his indoctrination. This documentary changes everything you thought you knew about the Lion King's most complex character. Every cub is born innocent, even Kovu. But what if the darkness we saw in him wasn't something he was born with, but something carefully cultivated? Imagine a tiny cub, eyes barely open, and the first sounds he hears aren't gentle purrs or playful growls, but bitter tales of betrayal and loss. For Kovu, this wasn't imagination, it was reality. In the scorching heat of the Outlands, where dust clouds choked the air and brittle bones cracked underfoot, Kovu's development was a twisted version of cubhood. Again, Zira would demand as he practiced stalking and pouncing. Harder, she'd growl as his tiny claws extended. Like a delicate sapling forced to grow in poisoned soil, every natural instinct was bent toward vengeance. While Prideland cubs chased grasshoppers through tall grasses, Kovu's playtime had a sinister undertone, with his mother's approval only coming when he showed aggression. Zira would carry Kovu to the border between their barren home and the lush Pridelands. Look closely, she'd whisper, her hot breath against his ear. That lion there. That's the one who destroyed everything. That's the one you will someday kill. Though Kovu couldn't understand the politics, he quickly learned that his mother's rare smiles came only when he growled at Simba's silhouette. Bedtime for Kovu wasn't filled with soothing lullabies, but with Zira's twisted fairy tales. She'd cradle him close and whisper about Scar's brilliance, how he had specially chosen Kovu. "You're special," she'd murmur, her voice unusually gentle. "Scar saw something in you. That's why you must avenge him." Sometimes when Zira wasn't watching, Kovu would play like any normal cub, but these moments were invariably punished. "Stop that foolishness," Zira would snap, cuffing him with a paw. Each reprimand drove a deeper wedge between Kovu's true nature and the identity being forced upon him. What made this indoctrination so effective was that Kovu had no personal memories to contradict Zira's glorified version of Scar. He was an idealized ghost, a standard Kovu could never quite reach, but was constantly expected to embody. 3. The brutal making of a weapon. Zira knew that stories alone wouldn't defeat Simba. She needed to forge her chosen weapon through fire and pain. What does it take to transform a small, innocent cub into a killing machine? For Kovu, the process involved systematic destruction of everything that made him a normal lion, all while something deep inside him struggled to survive. From the moment Kovu could walk steadily on his paws, Zira implemented a training regimen that would have broken most adult lions. While Simba's pride celebrated hunts as a family, Kovu was forced into the most treacherous corners of the Outlands alone, a small cub navigating jagged rocks and hidden sinkholes while searching for scarce prey, his body a weapon being hammered on Zira's anvil of cruelty. The physical challenges were merely the foundation. She created impossible scenarios specifically designed to break his spirit, gathering multiple Outlanders to attack Kovu simultaneously. When he failed, punishment came swiftly, sometimes a harsh swipe of her paw, but worse was when she would walk away, abandoning him for days. With each rejection, another piece of Kovu's true self splintered away. Food became another tool in Zira's arsenal. Before each meager meal, Kovu had to recite the fiction about Scar's reign and Simba's crimes. One mistake and Zira would drag away his food, leaving his growing body to weaken even as she demanded more the next day. His hunger for both nourishment and approval twisted together, reshaping his understanding of love. Zira focused on combat techniques specifically designed to kill a larger male lion. She forced Kovu to practice the same killing moves hundreds of times. Again, she would command, as Kovu, trembling with exhaustion, performed the strike until it became automatic. Even sleep offered no sanctuary. Zira would attack Kovu while he slept, teaching him to remain alert at all times. Night after night, Kovu learned to sleep with one eye open, his body never truly resting, building a constant vigilance that hollowed him from within while hardening his exterior, a weapon being tempered in the darkness of Zira's unrelenting forge. 4. Family bonds in the shadows. In the shadows of Zira's oppressive regime, there existed a complicated web of relationships between her 3 children. The cruelest part of Zira's plan wasn't just the physical training, but how she poisoned the natural bonds between siblings, turning what should have been sources of comfort into battlegrounds of rivalry and resentment. Though we witnessed Nuka's obvious jealousy in the film, the full story of these sibling dynamics runs much deeper. Beyond Zira's watchful gaze, rare moments of connection emerged. Vitani, beneath her tough exterior, recognized the psychological damage their mother inflicted and created brief opportunities for normal interaction. Behind termite mounds, she initiated play sessions resembling the activities of Prideland cubs, giving Kovu glimpses of what true siblinghood could be. Nuka's relationship with Kovu was heartbreaking. Living in constant emotional starvation, he both resented and felt protective toward the brother who received the attention he desperately craved. "Take it, runt. No one's looking," he'd whisper while sharing a hunting technique, only to snap, "I wasn't helping," if footsteps approached. His gentleness would transform into mockery, the mask of cruelty protecting him from Zira's disappointment. Vitani, more observant than her brothers, read Zira's volatile moods with uncanny precision. On dangerous days when rage threatened to erupt, she diverted their mother's attention, sometimes with reports of Prideland activity, other times by making deliberate mistakes that redirected Zira's fury away from Kovu. These small protections formed a silent alliance between them. The siblings created an unspoken language: ear flicks, tail positions, subtle expressions, warning of danger or signaling safety. 3 blinks means run, Vitani once murmured to Kovu during a rare moment alone. This hidden communication helped them navigate their perilous family dynamics, a skill that would later serve Kovu well when attempting to integrate into Simba's pride. Witnessing Nuka's deterioration planted seeds of doubt in Kovu's heart. During unguarded moments, he glimpsed the broken lion beneath his brother's jealous exterior, a preview of his own potential future on Zira's destructive path. These observations created uncomfortable questions that remained buried but never fully disappeared, quietly influencing his eventual choice to break free from Zira's control. 5. Glimpses of light in the Outlands. While Zira worked tirelessly to create the perfect killer, she overlooked one crucial detail. Even in the barren Outlands, a cub will find ways to play. Beneath the weight of his destiny, Kovu secretly rebelled in small but profound ways that would eventually save his soul. These hidden moments might seem insignificant, but they preserved something Zira never intended to keep alive: his capacity for joy. When sent on solitary hunting expeditions, Kovu became a different cub the moment he confirmed no one was watching. Like a flickering light in a raging storm, these moments of innocent rebellion preserved his true nature. He'd abandoned the grim task of stalking prey to chase butterflies, their vibrant colors against the dull Outlands fascinating him as the weight of his future temporarily lifted. Kovu's greatest treasure was a small cave hidden behind thorny bushes that deterred other Outlanders. This sanctuary became his private world where Zira's voice couldn't reach. Inside, a crack in the ceiling allowed a single sunbeam to filter through, creating dancing patterns. The cool air contrasted with the harsh heat outside, while the gentle echo of water dripping created a melody unlike anything in Zira's world. The cave's tiny pool, fed by an underground spring, became Kovu's playground. Here, his true personality emerged: curious, gentle, even mischievous. He'd splash in the water, watch his reflection, and practice expressions that had no place in Zira's vision: smiling, looking surprised, being simply a cub rather than a weapon. After rare desert rainstorms, tiny purple flowers would bloom near the Outlands border. Kovu's attentive care for these delicate blooms revealed the empathy Zira worked so hard to destroy. From certain vantage points, Kovu glimpsed Prideland cubs playing in the distance. This stark difference birthed dangerous questions about why he was denied such freedom. These stolen moments weren't just rebellion, they were seeds of doubt about his destined path, creating a longing for a life beyond revenge. 6. The Web of Lies. Those unspoken questions about the happy Prideland cubs were the first cracks in Zira's carefully constructed reality. What if every history lesson Kovu had received was deliberately crafted to manipulate him? The entire foundation of his purpose, avenging the Great Scar, rested on an elaborate tapestry of lies so convincing that Kovu couldn't distinguish fact from fiction. Like poisonous vines wrapping around his mind, Zira's twisted version of history shaped Kovu's entire worldview. When Kovu would sit for her her lessons, she painted Scar as a revolutionary visionary who dreamed of uniting all species. He saw beyond outdated traditions, she would tell him, her eyes gleaming with fervent belief or calculated deception. Kovu could never be sure which. These stories became the roots from which his hatred grew, choking out any chance for him to form his own understanding. Simba became the central villain in her fabricated past. While Scar stayed and faced the drought, working tirelessly to find solutions, she'd hiss, Simba lived in luxury, gorging himself on insects while we suffered. This image of a selfish, gluttonous Simba burned into Kovu's young mind, making him see the rightful king as nothing but a usurper. Zira rewarded Kovu's battle training with new revelations about their past. "Do you know why Simba really wanted you dead?" she once whispered after a grueling session. "Because Scar recognized something in you that terrified Simba, the potential to be greater than either of them." This lie bound Kovu to his mother through a false sense of specialness while feeding his hatred. For Scar's death, Zira created a noble martyrdom where Simba rejected peace with savage violence. "He threw your beloved mentor from Pride Rock," she would say, voice trembling with practiced emotion. The exile of the Outlanders completed her false history. Loyal subjects banished simply for honoring Scar's memory. "Look there," she would tell Kovu, gesturing toward the green Pride lands from their barren territory, "at what was stolen from us, at what will be yours when justice is restored." Each night, as Kovu stared at the kingdom beyond, these contradictions stirred deeper questions he dared not speak aloud. How could the happy cubs he saw be the children of the monster his mother described? 7. The final preparation. While Zira's history lessons planted the seeds of hatred, it was her final test that would determine if those seeds had fully bloomed into the weapon she needed. What happens when the moment of truth arrives and the entire Pride watches to see if years of brutal training have successfully killed the compassionate cub that once existed beneath the scarred exterior. The final test came on a night when thunder cracked across the Outlands sky without rain. Zira led Kovu to a ravine where a trapped Cape buffalo awaited. "Kill it," she commanded simply. The entire Outlander Pride watched silently as Kovu faced the injured but dangerous animal, its massive horns threatening death to the unwary. Something inside him hesitated even as his body moved with deadly precision. For nearly an hour, the deadly dance continued until Kovu finally delivered the killing blow with calculated efficiency. As the buffalo collapsed, Zira's smile grew wide. Her weapon was ready, but beneath his stoic exterior, a question formed in Kovu's mind. Was this truly who he was meant to be? That night, under a blood-red sunset, the Outlanders gathered. Zira stood upon jagged rocks with Kovu beside her, her voice carrying across the Pride. "The day of reckoning has come," she announced, her eyes gleaming with a manic light that made even loyal followers shift uncomfortably. Her plan wasn't direct confrontation, but something more insidious. "Tomorrow we will set fire to the eastern grasslands when the princess hunts alone," she explained. "Kovu would rescue Kiara, exploiting Simba's sense of honor. He will be forced to welcome his enemy into his own home," she hissed with a terrible grin. The revelation shocked Kovu. All his training prepared him for battle, not manipulation of an innocent's feelings. Cold doubt settled in his stomach, but he buried it quickly. As dawn approached, Zira carved a mark above Kovu's eye, identical to Scar's. "You are ready," she whispered as blood trickled down his face. "You are his now." Though Kovu remained outwardly steadfast, something within him recoiled. The scar wasn't just a wound, but the final claiming of his identity. Standing at the border as first light broke across the savannah, Kovu couldn't know this mission would end not with Simba's death, but with his own rebirth. 8. Conclusion. When we look at everything Kovu went through, it's amazing he didn't become the monster Zira wanted him to be. His story isn't about becoming evil, but about having his true nature buried under years of manipulation. What if that's the real miracle of Kovu's story? That something pure survived at all? Think about it. From his first memories to that final moment at the Pride Lands border, Zira did everything possible to extinguish his capacity for compassion, but she failed. The spark remained despite the endless training, psychological torture, and isolation. What does this tell us about love? It wasn't just Kiara's love that saved Kovu. It was the love he managed to preserve inside himself, waiting for the right moment to fully bloom. When he finally chose his own path, it wasn't a sudden change, but the emergence of who he'd always been beneath the scars Zira inflicted.